how to respond to verbal attacks. There are a lot of verbal abusers out there, and you may have one or more in your life. An adult child, a friend, a coworker, a boss, a family member. Of course, it could be your spouse. Today's question is about a spouse, but my answer also applies to these other verbal abusers. My wife this is a guy for a change. My wife wants out of our marriage. She has no biblical reason. Well, yeah, they rarely do. She says she's unhappy and has been for years. Yeah, they all say that. They rewrite your history. For the past 6 months, she has been saying nasty, mean things to me. That's often the case. And she'll often do it in front of our children and even other people. My pastor told me to take it without responding and to keep loving her. What should I do? Well, I'll tell you what to do. First, stop talking to your pastor about your marriage. This is not good and even biblical advice. You need to follow a tough love approach, not a weak, passive approach. The Bible teaches us to confront a sinner, and your wife is a sinner. You want out of a marriage for bogus reasons? That is a serious sin because marriage is sacred to God. If you have a biblical reason, different story. She does not. Get my book, My Spouse Wants Out. That's why I wrote it for this man and for people in his situation, women too, of course. My Spouse Wants Out. And follow the plan. Now, regarding her verbal abuse, this needs to be addressed. Biblically and in a Christ-like way, but firmly. Verbal abuse is disrespect of the highest order. It is the verbal equivalent of her slapping you across the face or punching you in the gut. Disrespect reveals contempt. Contempt destroys love and destroys the recipient of the verbal abuse. That would be this man. At least it does if you don't respond. And you're going to respond if you do it Dr. Clarke's way. Every time you take a verbal shot from her or from anyone without responding, and you just take it, like the pastor wants you to just take it, you are damaged physically and emotionally. You are weaker. You lose a little more of yourself. You embolden the verbal abuser. You enable the verbal abuser. You guarantee you'll get more verbal abuse. No one's saying anything. It's like you're almost saying, I deserve this. You send the message to the abuser and others who witness the verbal abuse, I deserve this abuse. What she said about me is true. I'm not worth being treated well. And also, feel free to continue to verbally abuse me. You lose the respect and love of your children and others who witness the verbal abuse. Those who witness the abuse and your non-response will disrespect you and have contempt for you. So the verbal abuse grows. It's like a pond in a rock in a pond. It keeps rippling out, and everybody starts treating you badly. I've talked to so many ladies especially, and some men like this guy, who live with a narcissist, who abused them for years. And what happens is, as the children grow up, in almost every case I've had, the children begin to disrespect you and verbally abuse you too. That's awful. You don't need to take that. These others will pity you, disrespect you, and verbally abuse you too. It's just human nature. It's sin nature. Bible talks about this. If you act like a doormat, others will wipe their feet on you. So, you need to respond briefly and assertively every time you are verbally abused. Now, your responses are brief. One sentence, one phrase, one word, in some cases. You don't get into a prolonged back and forth dialogue with the narcissistic abuser. You give your statement and you move on. When the verbal abuser challenges your response, which he certainly will do, or she, or attempts to justify what they said, ignore them or say, I stand by what I said. If the person continues to verbally abuse you, ignore them, shut down, and leave the situation, leave the room. If the abuser takes a shot at you in front of the kids or anyone else, you respond at that same time. Forget about doing it privately. They've chosen the venue, so be it. And again, you're trying to save your relationship with your children and these other people. The abuser has chosen a public place to humiliate you, to damage you, so you will respond in the public place. Now, you're not going to abuse back. You're just going to be assertive back. Here are some assertive responses to verbally abusive statements, just some ideas. I don't appreciate that comment. That's not true. That's a lie. That's insulting. That's not funny. That was mean and uncalled for. That was offensive. Yes, and even that was verbal abuse. You can also mention James 3, verses 1 through 12. Look it up. Not that he's going to. Now, the fact is, you don't respond assertively to change the other person, this verbal abuser. That's not the point here. Verbal abusers rarely change because they're dirtballs. If a normal person, a decent person, slips and verbally abuses you, an assertive response will lead to respect, an apology, and changed behavior. When I snap at the blonde, my beautiful Sandy, every now and then, it does happen. I'm the kind of person that says things that don't need to be said sometimes. Well, she's very tough and she'll respond, hey, what's the deal? I can't believe. That's when I go, you're right. I'm sorry, honey. No excuse. And we fix it because I'm normal and I love her. With a crazy spouse who is divorcing you or a bona fide abuser, they won't change. That is not the point here. You respond assertively to protect yourself, to strengthen yourself, and to protect your relationship with your children and others. Now, for a spouse who wants a divorce, again, get my book, My Spouse Wants Out, if they have no good reason to divorce you. For an abusive spouse, a narcissist, get 2 of my books. It's a 1-2 punch. 20 lies that keep you with your abuser. I'll help you with the codependent part of the equation and get you strong. And then Enough is Enough. This one will get you out of the abusive relationship.